Hello and welcome to the Phreak Show, everybody. All about talking about pro play and the patches that lead into them. This episode is talking about 8.8, which was MSI, and comparing it to 8.12, which is the patch that pros in the European and North American LCS will play on for weeks 2 and 3. Now, if you saw week 1 of pro play, you know what's in store, but let's break it all down in the same. How did we get here? First off, big changes to Summoner's Rift itself. Baron Nashor, Rift Herald, and Turrets all got changed to make games easier to end. So Baron Nashor is healthier, but its DPS is way down. This means that if you want to try to take Baron, you'll take a lot less damage, doing about 15% less damage over the course of the fight. And if you get stopped on the way, you're healthier and able to take that battle, meaning teams should be more willing to take the risk to go for Baron. Next up, Rift Herald is better at taking out turrets in the early to mid game. You can see a lot more charge damage. The first charge gonna do a bit more damage, but if it gets a second charge off, if it reaches a second turret, it's still doing close to full damage, which is a very substantial chunk off that turret. And speaking of turrets, the turrets that defend inhibitors and the Nexus are squishier as well. About 10% off the inhibitor, much more off the Nexus turret, so turtling inside your base and hoping you can weather the storm is less likely. You're more likely to kill off that turret during a Baron push or something else. Next big set of changes, the jungle has been reworked. It's been 6 months. It was due time, of course. So junglers who are ahead are going to have more sway over the game. First big change, Rift Scuttles are worth more XP and gold than before, and by a lot. So if you can take control of these sort of neutral jungle camps, you can be a lot richer and a lot more experienced up than your opposing jungler. A much bigger deal there. The second big thing is there's no longer a penalty for killing jungle monsters while ahead in experience. This is a pretty big deal because it means if you're snowballing, you can stay ahead instead of being pushed down towards the median. Now, we'll explain what that means for team comps a little bit later in the show. Another big bucket of changes, AD carries got a lot different about them. This is Ashe's health regeneration. It is down quite a lot. Her armor down quite a lot in the early game as well. Overall, she is squishier in the early game. It is easier to lane against marksmen. Next thing, though, is their attack damage is up in the late game. Again, a little bit of early game nerf, down by about 4, but by about level 8, it is higher, and the end game is better. So the dream of the late game AD carry is alive if you can get there, but that laning phase is no longer as free against non-standard marksmen or non-marksmen in general. There's also been a bunch of new items and item reworks coming in. A lot of these normally used by AD carry. Storm Razor is brand new. They had a burst damage at the very beginning of it. Right below that, it's Essence Reaver, which is great for attack damage / caster champions like Renekton or Illusion in there. The big ones also in the bottom, Last Whisper and its ilk. Worse against tanks, better against generic targets. And the big ones in the top right, Infinity Edge and Zeal changed quite a bit. Crit got its power spike pushed back, and it is weaker at killing squishies, but way better at killing tanks. We've got a quick example of a 3-item Tristana, Rapid Fire Cannon, Static Shiv, and Infinity Edge before and after the patch. And because the 8.12 build is more expensive, I gave the 8.8 build a free pickaxe to make the gold cost about the same. And you can see here that crit marksmen are anti-tanks. If big bruisers are a problem for you, well, crit marksmen are your solution. Now, there's another change that I want to talk about, and it's innocuous on paper. The ability power ratio to turrets from mages went from 0.5 to 0.6, and it doesn't sound like much, but it really changes how good they are at killing turrets off. You can see how much better Ahri gets over the course of time. That dotted line in the middle is that same 3-item Trish we just talked about. So at about 350 AP, Ahri becomes a better turret killer without using cooldowns than a Tristana would be in a similar scenario. So what does this all mean for League of Legends? What does it mean for pro play? What does it mean for solo queue? Well, it means for the first time in the history of League, basically, there are no longer mandatory marksmen in team compositions. Now, they are still popular across the top 5 leagues. 60% of bot lane picks still are conventional marksmen, but you've now got a lot more different bot lane marksmen or bot lane non-marksman matchups. Yasuo versus Xayah, for example, Vladimir versus Lulu, Mordekaiser versus Brand. All of these things now exist, and I think that's super exciting. Teams still have to play around that in their compositions. If you lack turret killing, you need a ranged mage. If you lack physical damage because you're playing one, you need someone somewhere else to cover that gap. But it's pretty exciting. We've also got a new strategy called gold funneling, where the mid laner and jungler put all their gold onto one of those 2 champions, and the other one takes on a more supportive role. We've seen things like Mordekaiser as a support plus Shyvana jungle, Taric support plus Master Yi. We've seen Super Camille as well. A lot of crazy stuff is out there. And ultimately, everything is in flux. We don't know for sure what the best strategies are. We've seen teams run both, or one or the other, or neither, and it's up to what the teams think is best. over the next few weeks, we'll see them start to solidify what they really do think works for them. I think we'll see some teams say, nope, we are a marksman team, and some teams say, nope, we are a mage team, or we are a super Yi team, or whatever. I think that's really cool that teams can have different approaches to how they play the game. Until then, buckle up. It's going to be an exciting road. It's going to be an exciting ride. I'm excited to watch more Summer Split. And that's going to do it for the Phreak Show. Now, if you have comments and feedback, please leave it for us. We'd love to improve and make the show even better in the next year. Stay tuned. We'll have more later.